Welcome to Knit All the Things. My name is Laurel. I'm also known as West Maven on Instagram, Ravelry, and here. If you're new, this is a space where I talk about all the things I'm knitting, all the things I want to knit, all things yarn, just all the things. And if you're returning, welcome back, knitting bestie. I can't wait to catch up with you. In this week's episode, we are going to be talking about two sweaters that I have finished in the last couple of weeks. One is a brand new pattern that's out now, so I can't wait to share that with you. And we are also going to talk about dream knits. I cast on a dream sweater, and let me tell you, I love it. It's a little harder than I thought, so it's gonna take a while. Also, I cast on a shawl, and I'm really excited to share this one with you. It is a pattern that is very simple and soothing, and it's just what I've needed lately. We are also going to talk about the latest issue of Laine Magazine. So grab your knitting, get cozy, and let's go. All right, are you cozy? We are going to talk about what I'm wearing first. So this is a brand new pattern. It's out now. It's called the Pyramid Light, and it is by Minimi Knit Designs. Her name is Christina, and she has a lot of patterns kind of in this same vibe or in this kind of line of patterns. So if this is not quite exactly your cup of tea, check out her patterns, and I will list them below because they are really amazing. I think they're a flattering fit, and there are different yarn weights and different things, so I'm sure that if you were interested in knitting it, it would be accessible. So this is a short sleeve tee. First, I'll leave it like this for a second. So when I finished this, I was really unsure how I was going to style this particular sweater. I decided to kind of go a little bit more businessy, just because I think this is how I would most likely wear this. It has short sleeves. It's a tee. It has pretty short sleeves, and it is they're very short. The reason for this is because this is knit top down in the round, inside out. And it gives you, the way that she has you do your increases, it gives you this V-neck look. And you can lengthen the sleeves if you wanted to, but I did not. So this has kind of the same mirrored look on the front as well as the back. And I really think it has such a pretty like little slipped stitch detail down the center on both the front and the back. And you have the reverse stockinette and then the stockinette on the sleeves. So when I first cast this on, I didn't realize that while it is a lot less purling than if you knit it right side out, it is still quite a bit of purling because you're doing all, like the whole yoke, there's a lot of purling. But once you get past that, there's not so much. I kind of struggled with this, and some other people did struggle with this a little bit in the pattern. When you go to do your increases, on one side mine looks really, really nice, and on the other side it looks less nice. And that's just because of the way that you are increasing. And I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but I think had I been a little bit more aware that it was a little bit looser on the side, I would have done something. I don't know what the something is. So I'm sorry if that's kind of frustrating to you, but there was a couple of options that I think would have probably helped. I think once you did the increase, if you would have tightened like the next stitch, that probably would have helped out a little bit. Or when I was done, I was thinking of just running like a thread of yarn through the back of the sweater to just kind of tighten just a little bit that line. I also, when I blocked it, kind of did tug this way instead of like this way, and that did seem to kind of like help a little. I also thought that this was a very fast knit. I will say one of the things that I did differently than the pattern was I lengthened it. The length of the pattern from the underarm to stopping before you start the hem is 8.5 inches. And to me, that is a cropped sweater. I believe it was like here-ish. And that would have been okay. And if I was a dress wearer, maybe I would prefer that. But for me, I needed that extra length. So essentially, I think I ended up knitting an extra couple of inches. I can measure this afterwards and I will put that information on the screen. But I did make it longer because for me, I needed it to be longer. So this is the Pyramid Light. She, of course, has several different pyramid patterns, and I do think it is a nice look. I will say from a wearing standpoint, I think it kind of has a slight minimizing effect for the chest area. I feel like some kind of like have enhancing, and maybe it's because I have still a little bit of ease on me on this garment rather than having it too tight, but I do feel it has a little bit of a minimizing effect for that area of the body. But yeah, I think it was fun to knit. I definitely had a couple of instances where I forgot to do the slip stitch, so I would have to go back and adjust that. But I used Treehouse Knits Sierra Sport in the colorway Hummingbird, and I really can't say anything bad about this yarn. It is so nice. It's very bright, so I'm not sure how it's going to come across in the camera, but I'll put a note if it's looking a little different. In person, this color is weird. It's a very chameleon-like color. In some lights, it looks very purple, and some lights, it looks very blue. And it just depends on like what it's up against and the lighting. Yesterday I put it outside and I was like, wow, that looks completely 100% blue. I was getting ready today, putting on this and putting on my jacket, and I was like, oh, definitely a purple top. So it's one of those like colors that I really can't say what color it is because it's kind of both. It just depends on what's around it. I also thought I would grab this jacket because I thought it was kind of fun. And maybe something else I would wear with this. Whoop. Knocking some things over, don't mind me. But to kind of make it a little different vibe, I thought this would be fun to wear with it as well. It's a little bit distracting, so I'm not going to wear it during the whole podcast because of all the sequins, but let me tell you, if there's one thing I love, it's sequins. I'm really a big fan. But I thought this was would be a fun look as well. But I probably would end up wearing something over, which in a way is a bummer because you are missing a little bit of that detail for the sleeves. Or maybe I would go back and make the sleeves a little bit longer just to make it something I would wear a lot, which I could do because I still have quite a bit of yarn. All right, so I have quite a bit of yarn left, and I only used 2 skeins of the sport weight. So it really doesn't use a ton of yarn. I did knit a size 2. And that gave me the recommended amount of ease. I can actually look that up and put that on the screen for you, but I enjoyed knitting it very fast. I don't believe it really took, I don't know, it was very fast knit. The gauge is 21 stitches per 4 inches. And I believe I used a size 5. The pattern recommends a size 4 needle. I used a size 5 with a sport weight. The pattern is created using Barocco Remix Light, which is a DK. I'm putting quotation marks because if you see this yarn in person, I haven't used it, so maybe once you knit it up, it blooms, but it seems fairly thin for a DK. It comes in really beautiful colors, and it is a very reasonable yarn price-wise, so I think it is a great option. I wanted to use my stash. Well, originally I was going to use something else, but I decided I was going to use my stash, and so I decided to go the sport weight route because I was feeling like I liked how this fabric came out. I like how it came out on the little bit larger needle, which did give me gauge. So it all worked out in the end. So what I'm trying to say is I think you could get away with using a sport weight yarn, especially if it's like a fluffy sport weight, if you will, or a light DK, because it definitely is a pattern that, depending on how you want the fabric to lay and feel on you, you're gonna have to make that decision for yourself. Other than that, I really, really enjoyed it. Some of the other people that knit the test made some very like awesome neutral used neutral colors, and I even thought it might be fun, if you wanted to be adventurous, if you will, to do intarsia and do this part one color and then do the body another color. I think that could look very elegant. So I think there's a lot you could do with this pattern. You could make it long sleeve, like I said, and that would be pretty easy to kind of hack. You wouldn't really have to, I mean, you could just have a blousier sleeve, or you could figure out slimmer sleeves if you wanted. But there's a lot of things that you could do with this pattern, and I think it's very classic, very easily worn on many bodies, looking nice. So I recommend. And that pattern is out now. I will link it below. Okay, the other thing that I have been working on, which I'll grab really quick, I've been working on the Albina sweater. This is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. It will be out, I think, in end of May, beginning of June. And so I will wear it then. But I did finish this. I knit it using Illimani Sabri 2, which is considered a very heavy worsted, if not Aran, weight yarn. But since I had used it before, I knew the gauge on this is 19 stitches per 4 inches, and I knew I could get that gauge, especially with the needle she recommended. Since I've knit so many of Caitlin's patterns, I know what needle I need based on what needle she uses. Also, I know, like, since I've worked with this yarn before, I knew it was going to be great. I nearly used all of my yarn. I used one color for the contrast, or one skein for the contrasting color, and I think 3 for the main color, and I was very close on both. Like, I was about to run out on both, and this was a size 2. So it came out the right measurements according to her schematic. Things I did differently. A lot of things I did differently. So shaping, everything is the same. I didn't lengthen the body or the arms or anything like that. Like, all of that was perfect for me. What I did differently is the striping. So in her version, her stripes are thinner. And I just decided to do thicker stripes, and I just doubled the stripes. So I didn't like do my own striping so much as just doubling the stripes that she has. And the other kind of change I did was make this space a little bit longer, because I didn't want this stripe width to be the same as down here by any means, or too close. So I wanted this to have a nice thicker spot. I did the same thing with the cuffs, and then I stopped my striping earlier than she stopped her striping. I stopped my striping in a main color prior to starting any neck shaping. So once the pattern comes out, you'll see what I'm talking about, and I will talk about this more again, but that is just part of what I did. I then also, because I was trying to keep a certain kind of cadence with my stripes, I started my stripes after, I think, the first decrease. So that is kind of how that turned out. I'm really excited. I've been wanting to wear this so bad because our weather has been like in the 60s, 70s pretty consistently, and I think this would be great. It's a cotton, if I didn't say, it's 85% cotton, 15% alpaca, so it's very wearable for this time of year and kind of year round. And I'm really excited to wear it. I don't want to get it dirty before it's released, so I've been kind of just patiently waiting to be able to wear this, but I am very excited and very anxious to be able to wear it. I think it's turned out exactly how I wanted it to. I'm very excited to wear it. Okay, so that is the Albina sweater by Caitlin Hunter, and that is coming soon. I would suggest that if you are not following her on Instagram, I would do that and sign up for her newsletter so that you can know when that pattern is released, because all of that information will be available there. Okay, so 2 cast-ons. Let me think. Okay, so I did cast on a shawl, and part of the reason I did that was, in my head, my mother-in-law had asked for a black shawl, and I had asked her, like, I want to make you something, what would that look like to you? And she said, oh, something black. So we all know I must like her a lot. But what I was going to say was, I had extra yarn from this. I had I had bought 2 extra skeins, one of each color just in case. And so I had returned that to the store, and in my mind was like, I'm gonna buy this yarn for her shawl with this return. So I ended up buying, and I have never knit with this before, the Isager Trio 2. And it is a blend of 50% linen, 30% cotton, and 20% lyocell. And I just got the color black because that's what she wanted. And so I chose to do, I first was going to do the Lightweight Hipster by Joji Locatelli. I have made that in the past, and I loved the way it turned out. But I decided I didn't want to knit the same shawl. And so I am doing the Storm Shawl by Joji Locatelli. And hopefully this comes through. It has some garter sections, some dropped stitch sections, and then some, like, what do we call this? Eyelet sections. And they're kind of laid out a little bit differently, so it's not just like one continuous thing, but one side has kind of more than the other side, like a thicker stripe of them. But I'm really enjoying how this is turning out. It's really fast to knit. This is not the easiest thing to show on here, but it's really fast to knit. I have one more section of these drop stitches, and then I think there's like a picot bind off. So that will be a little bit time consuming, I think. But once this is all blocked out, this will be a fairly good sized shawl. I have it on kind of a, I feel like a small cable, because when you do the drop stitches, you're having, well, maybe I have enough. I always feel like when you go to do the drop stitch section, it feels like you have a lot of knitting and stitches on your needles. And I think sometimes I'm afraid that I'm gonna not have enough space, but maybe I'll be okay. I'll let you know. But I hope to finish this very soon and mail it to her. It wasn't necessarily a gift for anything in particular, but I wanted to like send this just because I feel like she lives in Florida, and I think sometimes in the summer there's when you go inside with all the air conditioning, it might be nice to have something on your shoulders, which is partially why I didn't do any sort of wool. I just kind of thought I would keep it easy breezy and more of a kind of fashion piece, if you will. I think it would look really cute with this too. Like, I kind of wish I might have to make one for myself. I really think it's really nice, and I really love Joji's shawl patterns. I think that they're really fun to do. It keeps just enough interest, so you start out with some garter, like get comfortable with yourself, and then you're like, okay, I'm bored, and then you have something else to do, and then you do a wedge of some garter, and then you have some eyelets. Like it's a nice rhythm to this project, and I'm really, really liking it. This hasn't taken that long. This is one, so Joji Locatelli has several one skein wonder shawl patterns. She has the storm one, she has the lightweight hipster. There is, I think there's one called just one skein shawl, maybe. She has some really great shawl patterns that only use one skein of fingering weight yarn, and I find that to be really, really nice. These are 50 gram skeins, and it's more of a sport weight, and so I got a 3. I might only end up needing 2, but I wanted to have that extra just in case. And I can imagine making a lot of garments out of this yarn as well. I think it is an excellent summer yarn. I will say the one negative I can think of to kind of share with you, which may or may not bother you. It really hasn't bothered me, but it is something to just note. And this is a little bit the case with some summer yarns, is it's quite splitty. So I would say my recommendation for that is not to use too sharp of needles, because you might end up just splitting more of the yarn that way. If you have more of a rounded, duller tip, it might make it a little bit easier. It is something that I kind of have to like keep an eye on when I'm knitting. So while this is pretty like eyes off project, you kind of have to keep that in mind. I will also say, even though it is black, but it is an eyes off, what I would call an eyes off project, meaning it's mostly knitting. And so it doesn't really bother me to knit it, because I know sometimes people don't love knitting with black yarn, but this one isn't so bad because, again, you're not really having to like look at your work the whole entire time. So that is kind of that project, and I'm getting close. It's getting there. Hopefully soon, and I can mail it off to her. Now, this is the moment I know you've all been waiting for. I'm really excited to share this with you. Okay, first of all, if you've been a long time watcher, then I have spoke about this sweater many a time, and I'm hoping you're not bored of hearing about it, but it's been cast on, so I feel like it's okay to talk about now. Okay, so the sweater I'm talking about is the Piña Colada sweater that is featured in the issue 45 of Pom Pom magazine. And it is this sweater, the Piña Colada sweater. It is a bottom up, knit in pieces intarsia sweater. So part of me feels like I'm absolutely insane for doing this. But once I've gotten in the rhythm, it's feeling slightly less scary. I'm a little nervous about seaming everything, just having it like look nice. But so far, it's going okay. So the pattern designer is Laura Zukaite, and she chose yarn from the company Yarnalia. So she chose yarn from Yarnalia. She used a superwash merino acrylic nylon sport weight yarn, and then a lace weight baby alpaca. So I am using a lace weight alpaca by Isager. So it's Isager Alpaca 1 in the colorway 30, which is black. And yarn nouveau sapphire, which is a sport weight. So this is the insanity. Here we go. This is all I've gotten done. And I feel like I've worked on this a lot, but you know, small progress will take. So it is a intarsia. I'm so sorry for all the clicking. There's not a ton I can do with this. It's got like little zigzags and little diamonds that I'm working on. And so my main color, I guess we would call it the alpaca, the black, and then the contrasting color is the sapphire. And I'm hoping this will look really good when it's done. I feel like it will be a little bit more visible on my skin once we get there, maybe. But that's what I've been working on. So I have done a couple intarsia projects in the past. When I first started this one, I had a little bit of an issue. First, I was thinking, this is the type of intarsia. Let's start here. So this is the type of intarsia because you are carrying one color the entire time and then picking up your contrasting color. All you have to do is pick it up and set it down as you're knitting. At first, I was treating it as color changing intarsia where I was trying to somehow twist everything, and everything was becoming like just a disastrous mess, and in between my stitches was loose and it was just looking really bad. And so I had messaged the designer and said, I'm having a hard time, like what needles did you use? Because I'm thinking maybe she used like wooden needles and maybe that would be stickier and would work better. And she said nope, she used Addy metal needles, which was what I'm using I think on this one. And so I tried again. And also having talked, I think, to you guys and to friends, someone somewhere suggested just like, don't think of it like intarsia, just think of it as picking up an additional color, which somehow helped my brain get there. So that's where we're at. I haven't made it through an entire first repeat. We're getting close though. And yeah, this is definitely going to be a labor of love. I also think that once I really get going, it'll go fast. Part of me is kicking myself because I didn't do the sleeve first. I feel like the sleeve would have been good because you would have less bobbins going and like feel like you're making more progress because you're knitting a shorter distance. But who knows? Maybe I'll finish the front and then do a sleeve. I probably shouldn't. Maybe I will. Watch me do it. So this is the shaping for the sweater is pretty simple. It is a drop shoulder shape. So you essentially are just knitting mostly triangles front and back, and triangles? No, you're not. You're knitting rectangles or squares. You're probably knitting like squarish squares front and back and rectangles for the sleeves. My God, don't ask me. I need more coffee. Okay, so that's kind of how the shaping goes. I hopefully will have popped in a video of the inspiration sweater that I saw during Flock Fiber Festival. Speaking of, I will be attending this year, so if you are attending, let me know in the comments below. I hope I can run into you in Seattle. So that is my dream sweater, and I really think it's gonna be amazing. Like, I'm so excited about the black and the blue. In person, it definitely is showing up well. I'm knitting a size 3. I think I'm knitting a size 3. I'm pretty sure I'm knitting a size 3. Yeah, and it has some obvious positive ease. Now I'm looking at it, holding it up, I'm getting nervous, but maybe it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's really hard to say. I've never knit a pieced together sweater before, so everything about this project is new. There's not anything that's feeling super familiar. I bought, just to share with you, here's the cute thing, and I won't get into too much detail, but in the last 2 weeks, my grandmother passed away, which is really sad because I'm very close with her. I was very close with her. But one of the things, right before I started this project, I was looking for bobbins because I knew I had some bobbins and they were from her. So that's kind of a special thing that I'm using. The red and green ones are hers, and I had to get more because I didn't have enough. But I purchased on Amazon just these boy bobbins. And I like them a lot. They're really manageable. I feel like I can kind of snug them onto the project well enough to have them not bopping around too much and get just enough yarn that I need for the few stitches that I'm doing. Because really the little areas that you're knitting are just like a few stitches here and there. So it is really nice to be able to have that like just a little bit. And they don't tangle too badly. I mean, they are tangling right now. But when I'm going, they lay just fine. So that is the Piña Colada sweater by Laura Zukaite. I really hope I just keep plowing along. I think this is going to be like, as much as I would love to hurry and get it done, I think realistically it's not going to be a thing. I don't think. I am going to just plow through this. I want to enjoy it. I also don't want to make big mistakes on this one because it is so complicated. I just want to like slowly plug away. So I do think once I'm done with the shawl, I will cast on a stockinette project of some kind. I have been thinking about, I have pure silk sitting around for a petite knit, what is it called? Cumulus blouse. It's a V-neck blouse tee. And I've been wanting that for a really long time, and it's just stockinette, and I haven't cast it on because I've done a lot of stockinette things in the past, and I know it's going to be monotonous, but it might be perfect, especially alongside this other project that is like crazy. I really can't imagine taking this anywhere. Like, I think it's an at-home project. It's too much. It's too much to be like dragging around, having these things hang off of it. I don't know. If you're a big intarsia knitter, let me know. Do you take your projects with you or do you leave them at home? I don't know. I feel like I need to leave it at home. Anyway, so that was from the Pom Pom issue 45. You may be able to find this in your local yarn store. Since Pom Pom is not printing anymore, you can't get a print copy, but you can get a digital copy online still. So those are your options. I think it would be fine. The chart for this is very easy. It is a very small chart, very repeatable, very memorizable. You can read your knitting, and it only changes every other row. So if you do one row, then you know what the row coming back is, and then the next row, you know what the row coming back is. So in that way, it makes it very easy. I just have to like glance, like, what am I doing? Okay. And reading my stitches. So from that standpoint, it's very easy. I think it's just slow. It's making me slow down. Maybe it's good for me. It's making me slow down. So that's what I've been working on. Again, the yarns are the Isager Alpaca 1 and Yarn Nouveau's Sport in the color Sapphire. I really think these are really pretty together. So there we go. There we go. Okay. We're going to do, one more knitting thing, and then we'll do another little update, and then we will talk about Laine Magazine. Okay. So my husband, I made these socks for him last year. And the other day I looked over and like the whole bottom had like torn, like big. It wasn't like a small hole. It was like your foot's coming out of your sock hole. And so because it's a heel flap and gusset, I was a little unsure how I was going to fix this, because this is BFL nylon blend sock yarn. And typically this has worked really well for him. Like, he hasn't gotten holes, but I'm wondering if the gauge was just a little loose or what. And so this one's fine. It's just on the other side, but this one I am gonna do a little double stitching on places I see are a little thin. But I restarted this. I did a little sock surgery. So I cut off the foot and really picked up from the heel flap. So I did the heel turn, and with the heel turn is where it was ripped. So I added a thread of sock, like darning thread, is that what it's called? And just added that to it. So it's very like sturdy and thick right there. And if this works, will be what I do for all of his socks moving forward. Like maybe the last row of the heel flap and then the heel turn, and then I can drop that thread and just continue on. But already it feels substantially stronger. So I'm hoping that will help. I just need to do the gusset decreases, and then I will reattach the sock. So that has been a little project. And I feel like in the last 2 weeks, I've been kind of just finding little things to fix. This I had finished on, I think, the last episode, but I had decided I wanted to lengthen it. So I did that this week. So it was all these little adjustments to make me love what I'm wearing more, or fixing things or stuff like that. So that's kind of what I have been working on. I have a little update. I have been working on my Smock shawl just a little bit. This is a Stephen West pattern. It hasn't gotten a ton of love, but it is something I picked up when I just needed a little bit of, this has been my in the car project, but often I drive, so it hasn't gotten a lot of love lately. But I'm just in the kind of plain pattern, and then I will do my decreases, and then that'll be a beautiful, I'm so looking forward to finishing this, because I really can't wait to do the smocking edging, which is just so pretty. And this is my hand spun. It's out of 100% Rambouillet by Banshee Fibers. I've also been working a little bit on my half and half wrap, but it doesn't look any different than any time that I've shown it, so I'm gonna just leave that for next time. I almost don't want to show you this because it's so embarrassing. Maybe I will just, okay, we'll just leave it. I don't know okay, so I have a Snyder spindle that is a Turkish spindle, and Andrea Mowry is killing me right now with her support spindling. So I thought, you know what? That's cool. I'll grab one. So Snyder spindles had some supported spindles in their shop, and so I got a cherry one. It's really pretty. I really, really like it a lot. I really have no idea what I'm doing, so don't even look at anything right there. But this is really pretty. My dad is a cabinet maker, and so all different kinds of woods I just really love. I'm a huge fan of walnut is my favorite, but then cherry is a good second. And this is a really beautiful spindle. It really is. So if you have been looking for a support spindle because you're inspired by Andrea, then I would say Snyder Spindles. They do have some in stock. They're on Etsy. I think they also have their own website, and you can find that there. I also, in the last little bit, got just a tiny bit of fiber from, I think this is Mork Made Fiber. I got this at Ritual Dyes. They had a little trunk show over Mother's Day weekend, and so I grabbed some. And I just wanted something that was pretty and colorful to play with, that would just be something fun. I have no plans for this. I really don't know what I'm doing, so it could be ugly. It's okay. I mean, this isn't ugly. What I make could be ugly, and that's okay. But I thought it was a fun color. It has oranges and purples and pinks and some whites and darker colors inside. It's just a pretty bat. And this one happens to be, oh, I lost the tag. I think it's merino and firestar and silk and all kinds of alpaca. So it's got a bunch of different fibers in there. Okay, moving along. What we've all been waiting for. Okay, so let's talk about the latest issue of Laine Magazine. I don't normally do this, but I marked some patterns because half the time I feel like I spend trying to find them. So let's talk about them. So in Laine Magazine, there are several patterns in this issue. There's a couple of cardigans, a couple of pullovers, a vest, a pair of socks, a cute little scarf. There's so many things. And I'm sure I'm missing stuff for sure. A little like vest or a short sleeve shirt. So there's a lot of patterns to choose from. I chose, it looks like 6, which is surprising, but we'll see how many we get through. So the first one, we will talk about the cover one, which is really, really gorgeous, but we'll come back to that. The first one that caught my eye, and one designer that I do really love, she doesn't always have size inclusive patterns, but this one is technically, is called Quince. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Quince? It is a top-down sweater, and at first you hold a mohair by itself, and then you join a fingering weight wool for the rest of it. And once you join the wool, once you're done with the mohair, it's all twisted stitches. So if that is not a thing you love, then this may not be the pattern for you. However, I really feel that knitting through the back loop is super easy. Like, I feel like that's one thing that never bothers me, and it's quite comfortable to do. You're knitting top down in the round, so you're not doing it flat at any point. So it should be not a terrible change to your knitting. And the recommended ease on this one is 1 inch, and this is the only kind of critique I have, and it's not necessarily a bad critique, but just something to keep in mind. So the model is definitely not wearing 1 inch of positive ease. That is definitely a much more positive ease sweater on this model than just 1 inch. So it's just something to keep in mind when you are looking to choose a size. I would just keep that in mind. So this pattern has beautiful twisted stitches and then a beautiful motif, like a flowerish kind of motif on the cuffs and on the hem of the sweater. It kind of reminds me of little like tulips in a way, but it's really, really cute. And I really like how it's the mohair and then the 2 strands held double. I think that's really nice. I think that'd be very flattering on a lot of people. And I think you could really play around with your colors in a really interesting way. You could do tonal, you could do exactly the same color. I really think that is a fun look. I think it's such a cute sweater. So that was Quince or Quince by Irene Lynn. So there are two, let's see, there are two cardigans, and you guys, I'm so excited. They have pockets. Both of them have pockets. So the first one is a pattern by Fiona Alice, and it is called Imatra. And I love how it's like a color block sweater and it has pockets. I really also love the button band being short. So the button band doesn't go all the way down to the bottom of the sweater. It stops. And then you do your ribbing and finish the sweater. So I really like that. I think that's so fun and like such a kind of cool, makes it a little bit more cool vibe. It has such a cute little shoulder and back to it. It's just so cute. So that was one of the patterns that really caught my eye. I think you could really go as funky as you want or as classic as you want, or you could just do it all one color and it would still look pretty. I think that's such a fun one. And then this is a bulky kind of twin set, if you will. This cardigan has pockets, and then there's also a like vest slash tank top underneath, but it's in kind of a bulkier weight yarn, Paula Pereira. And it is called Casadino. And it's just so cute. So there's a really, really like beautiful kind of, so there's a beautiful timeless tank and then a really, really pretty cardigan with pockets that's textured. Guys, can we tell that I love pockets? Okay, so I thought that was a really, really nice kind of set, and I really think that it is something that you could make and wear season round, but I am guessing because it is more of a bulky weight, it might be on the warm side. And the textured stitch just looks so, so pretty. The next one that I wanted to share with you that's just a little different, I felt like it's kind of a fun pattern, is by Griselda Zarate. Hope I said that right. And it is called Brisa al Atar Desert, which is the Breeze at Sunset. And it has such an interesting texture. And what's even more interesting is they're holding two yarns held together. So it almost has this like marled effect. I just thought it was so cool. And in the pattern, it also suggests that if you were not into this as a pullover, you could just make it a vest by basically leaving the sleeves off. And I thought that was really nice. This pattern is knit, I believe, from the top down, and it really is just such a cute sweater. I think it is drop shoulder, and so you could just leave the sleeves off, like I said, and then continue on. The next one, which is kind of what I feel like my soul needs right now in some ways, is a garter stitch shawl. And the cool thing about it, because there's so many out there, this one is it's by Julia Wilkins, it's called Ziggy. And this one is knit, you're doing the triangles. So you do a triangle, and then you do this really cool loop stitch and add a different contrasting color, which kind of gives it a fun look. Here's a close-up of that loop stitch. And I just really, really thought that was fun. Such a just easy, simple thing, but makes it so cool. And I mean, look at her all wrapped up in that. It just makes me wanna cast one on right away. And I thought this would be cool in black. Go figure. But I really do think it would be such a fun knit. I believe this is knit. This is knit in Isager Spinny. And I think that's a lace weight. I think it might be a lace weight yarn or a light fingering. And so you definitely could substitute a lot of yarns for it. And then she says that the fringe and the tassels are made with like very little yarn, so you could use scraps for those if you wanted. So I don't know, I really liked that. I could envision going like totally all black and then little neon fringes, or going really classic and doing like gray and white with the fringe marled. I just think it's really cool. And then last but not least, and probably the one, if I were to cast one item on right now, maybe the shawl, but also maybe this sweater. So this sweater is called the Lucien by Audrey Borrego, and it has beautiful details. It is a raglan style sweater with a beautiful lace detail along the raglan and then down the sides. And I am a sucker for that detail. Like anything that has a detail on the side of the sweater that's just like kind of something for you, not necessarily something for everyone. I mean, everyone can see it, but to me, it's like that little detail that makes all the difference. So I thought this one was really, really pretty and something I would definitely cast on like right now. So those are my picks for the latest issue of Laine Magazine. It is their summer 2024 and it is out now. I have one more thing to show you and then one question to answer. So over Mother's Day, my kids, husband/kids, got me Arounna's new book, Contemporary Patchwork. And I love absolutely all of her books, and her bags are my favorite knitting bags of all time. Hands down, Buku, as she's known on Instagram, favorite knitting bag all time. So I was really excited because I'm not going to start making knitting bags, but I do want to make myself one. And there's this cute patchwork one on the front, and my grandma was a knitter, and I thought it would be really cute to either see if I couldn't get my hands on, I know she has some like unfinished things that I could maybe make a bag out of, would be nice, or just make my own of little sweet. I had thought sometimes I think it might be fun to use like kids shirts. So my kids have some button ups from when they were really tiny to now, and I thought I could kind of like make my own little thing with their like material from that to make it special. But I thought it might be fun to make just the bag. And she has a million other things. She has tips on how to like dye your own fabric and do the weaving and all the different things that she does you can do in here. And it really has like a printing, like how to do that, how she decides to do different things, how to do applique, like the actual technique and how to do it. All these things are in here, and I really thought that was cool. And just even the pictures, like I may never make anything out of this book, but I will enjoy reading and looking through it all the time. So I thought that was a sweet gift. I really, really am looking forward to doing something with this. I don't think probably too soon, but maybe one day. Okay, so I had a question from one of you guys, from Joyce. She said she enjoyed my projects. Someday I want to make the ranunculus. One thing I do not like is that everything is so supersized to me. How can you reduce the ease? So I wanted to answer that really quickly for Joyce and anyone who has this question. So on the ranunculus pattern, I pulled it up, and while I won't go through the nitty-gritty details of the pattern, I will reference it a little bit to try and help you out. Okay, so the smallest size on the ranunculus, size 1, is a 46 inch or 117 centimeter bust, or I guess we call it the body circumference. And then I knit a size 5, which is a 55 inch bust or 140 centimeter size. So my positive ease is something like, oh God, I'm gonna have to do math. It's like 19 inches of positive ease. I'm probably wrong, but let's go with that. So mine is much larger positive ease. So if I wanted to do my standard positive ease of sweater, which I like a lot, that's not, I mean, it's oversized, but not like oversized like that sweater. Okay, so my normal happy place for ease if I'm just gonna make a slightly oversized sweater, is 40 inches. And so what I would do in this case, I would experiment and swatch and see if I wanted to do a smaller needle size that would give me a gauge that would equal that 40 inches. That would be where I would start. That would be the first thing I would do. So I would swatch and see what needle would give me fabric I would like that would be a smaller gauge, is where I would start, and figure out what that would result in. So what I would try to do is I would try to go down a needle size to see if that wouldn't give me less ease. So the recommended ease, or I'm sorry, your gauge is going to be 14 stitches for 20 rows, and that's using a US 10. So I would try using a US 8, a US 6, and see where I got the best like fabric I liked and what my gauge was using that, and then choose a size based on that. The cool thing about this sweater is while it is a round yoke, it is also raglan. And so once you find a fabric you like and it's going to give you a garment size that you want, then if, for example, you end up doing the size 1, let's say I decided to do the size 1, and I finish the yoke and I start to do my raglan decreases, and I'm realizing that my yoke depth is going to be too short, you can just add more rows before separating for sleeves and body. You want to keep in mind that once you go down in gauge, everything is kind of shrinking. So your armholes are going to shrink. All of that's going to change, and so you're going to have to keep that in mind. But again, because it's it is a modified like circular yoke raglan, you can end up doing adding more length in your yoke, which is also going to add space in your armholes, and you can kind of slowly navigate this pattern, I think, quite easily to get a smaller sweater. But again, I would look at what yarn you're using, I would swatch, and then kind of choose the size based on that. And I would 100% go down a needle size if that makes fabric you like to make the sweater smaller. That would be how I would approach making a smaller ranunculus. I actually was thinking about this the other day, thinking mine are all oversized. Wouldn't it be nice to have one that is more fitted? And so that would be how I would approach it. I would definitely swatch, find fabric I like, and then start from there. And if I needed to add space for the yoke, again, just add space there before splitting for sleeves. Or once you get to the raglans and you try it on, then you can decide how many more rows you're going to need than is given, and then you can make the raglan increases a little further apart to kind of accommodate that. So it's well spaced. I can't think of what I'm trying to say, but I think you get it. I hope that answers your question, Joyce. Again, I'm by no means any sort of expert, but I do hope that helps a little bit. I appreciate you guys so much. It's been a rough couple of weeks. I've been kind of missing my grandma and dealing with that mentally. And so thank you for being here. I'm sorry if I haven't answered all of your comments. I have seen them. I appreciate them. They're so nice. And if you guys haven't yet seen, I did make a video on 15 knitting patterns for summer and spring wear, and I will link that after this video. Otherwise, I will see you guys in 2 weeks. If we're not yet knitting besties, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video because it tells YouTube that other fiber enthusiasts like yourself enjoy this type of content. Until 2 weeks from now, make some yarn magic.